Hi there, welcome back to CSEC English B Paper 2 Solutions with Miss Athalie. Today we will be focusing on a question from Section B, Poetry. In my previous video, I explained the difference between question 3 and 4. In question 3, you are given two specific poems to write about, and in question 4, you are able to choose your own poems, but they must focus on the theme provided. We will be looking at question 3 today. This question is taken from the May 2018 paper. You may pause the video to read the question. At first, this may seem like a whole bunch of words jumbled up together, and you may not know where to start. This brings us to step 1. Break it down. Read the quote provided, then pause to think about it for a while. Do you understand what it says? Do you remember the poems? What do you remember about them? Is the vocabulary familiar? If not, get a dictionary. You will not be able to do this during your exam, but it is a good habit to develop. These words may show up on your exam. You never know. Next, look at what you're being asked to do. You must focus on this theme in the two poems. Which theme? The yearning for acceptance, the desire to be accepted. Once you have understood that, you move on to the next sentence. For each poem, you must describe one instance in which the speaker's yearning to be accepted is evident. Then what? You must also discuss how each speaker responds to this feeling. Finally, for each poem, you must examine one device used to portray the speaker's yearning for acceptance. Now, this is a technique you can use to break the question down. I love colors, so I tend to color code everything, but you may also underline, number, or circle the parts. All of the questions are usually written in this format, and you will be asked to do 3 things. So as you can see, I have green, orange, and purple. These are the 3 things. First, you must describe one instance in which the speaker's yearning to be accepted is evident. The second, you must also discuss how each speaker responds to the feeling. And then finally, the device, right? You must answer each one. You cannot skip any part or you will risk losing marks. So let's move on. Once you have understood the question, it is time to brainstorm. One of my favorite techniques is to use this cloud and to write my ideas as they come. In the middle, we have the theme. Then, there are the 3 main things that we have to consider. How the yearning for acceptance is evident, how the speakers respond to these feelings, and the devices. So let's look at the first part. In My Parents, the speaker wants to be accepted by the other children. In Dreaming Black Boy, the speaker wants to be accepted by his teacher and society in a racist environment. We won't elaborate too much here because it's just a plan. When you begin writing your essay, you will explain a little more and give examples to support your points. Next, how do they respond to these feelings? In My Parents, he reflects on their actions and keeps them inside. In Dreaming Black Boy, he keeps his feelings to himself. He reflects on them and he accepts his fate. And the devices in My Parents, we have the use of the simile quite a lot. And in Dreaming Black Boy, there is a lot of repetition. Keep in mind that you should write at least 5 paragraphs. You should have at least 1 paragraph for each point. However, you may want to break some of them down into more, and that's fine. You should discuss the points in the same order as the question. First, the yearning for acceptance. then how they respond, and finally, the devices. You must also have an introduction and a conclusion. So what is our next step? It's time to write. After we have written, there is a very important step. We must proofread. This step is extremely important to ensure that you have not made any careless errors. Read your essay to yourself. Does it make sense? Are you impressed? Are you happy with it? Make any necessary improvements. Here is a sample essay based on the topic. I will read through it, but feel free to pause the video to read it yourself. I will also post it in the description box below. If you look at the comments on the right here, the essay has been organized into 5 main parts, just like we discussed. So it goes. The poems My Parents and Dreaming Black Boy both feature speakers who yearn to be accepted. The situation in which the speaker's desire to be accepted is evident, but they both respond to this feeling differently. The poets of each poem also use different devices to portray the speaker's yearning for acceptance. In the poem My Parents, the speaker is an adult reflecting on his childhood. He shows disappointment about being kept away from other children in the neighborhood. Although these children were wild, strong, and violent, he still yearns to be accepted by them. This is mostly expressed in the final stanza of the poem. After the children threw mud at him, he looked the other way and pretended to smile. However, they did not smile back, and this rejection affects him in a negative way. In the poem Dreaming Black Boy, the speaker longs to be accepted by his teacher and society in a racist environment. He also yearns for freedom. In the first half of the poem, the black boy wishes that his teacher would acknowledge him and hug him. He longs for the best possible education and to eventually have a well-paying job that does not require him to sink to lick boots. He also yearns to travel without restrictions. He simply wants to be accepted as an equal and not a lesser being. The speakers in both poems respond differently to their feelings. In My Parents, the speaker reflects on the behavior of the children. His yearning to be accepted causes him to think about the horrible actions of the children and how he is being bullied. Instead of expressing these feelings to his parents or the children, he keeps them inside. In Dreaming Black Boy, the speaker thinks about his painful situation. Because he is not accepted, he feels out of place in society and like he does not have a voice. For example, he holds back his answers in class. It appears that he has accepted his fate in society, as all he can do is sit and wish. The poets of both poems use different devices to convey the theme of yearning for acceptance. In My Parents, several similes are used while the speaker reflects on the boy's actions. He mentions that they threw words like stones, had muscles like iron, and behaved like dogs. In the poem Dreaming Black Boy, the poet uses repetition to emphasize the speaker's desire for acceptance. The words I wish are included in every stanza. This gives readers the idea that the speaker greatly desires acceptance. The poems My Parents and Dreaming Black Boy both deal with the theme of yearning for acceptance. The speakers deal with their feelings differently, and the poets use different devices to portray their desires. Easy, right? If it was not easy, don't worry, this channel is here to help. You'll become an essay writing pro in no time. Next week, we will look at this question from section B. It's a question 4, so we will have to choose our own 2 poems. The idea that we have to consider is that people sometimes have a desire to escape their circumstances. Which 2 poems would you choose to tackle this essay? Type them in the comments. See you next time.